When she flashed her smile, though, so mischievous and dangerous, Entreri hardly noticed the tear in her lips. For to Artemis Entreri, she remained beautiful, and other than to consider her motivations for keeping the scar and the deeper meaning it seemed to hold to her, he hardly noticed it. It did not detract in the least for him, so lost was he in the mysteries that simmered in her eyes. She shook her head, and her thick hair rolled about her shoulders, and Entreri wanted to leap over and bury his face in that warm, soft mane. "We agreed to eat," Callaghe reminded him. She gave a sigh and began pulling on her shirt. "I would have thought you'd worked up a great and growling hunger." As her head came up through her collar, her eyes set on her lover, Callaghe's smile disappeared. That flash of a frown clued Entreri into his own expression. He was scowling. He didn't know why, and there wasn't a singular thought in his mind that might bring a scowl to his face just then. Callaghe wouldn't elicit such a thought from him, after all, for he considered her a bright spot in his miserable life. But he was indeed scowling, as her reflective frown revealed. He was often wearing that dour expression of late, or had it been forever, and often for no apparent reason at all, except, of course, that he was often angry, at everything and nothing all at once. "We do not have to eat," the woman said. No, of course we should go and get some food. The morning is late already." "What troubles you?" "Nothing." "Did I not please you last night?" Entreri nearly snorted aloud at that absurdity, and he couldn't suppress a smile as he considered Callaghe and recognized that she was simply goading him for a compliment. "You have pleased me many nights, greatly, and last night was among those," he offered to her, and he was glad to see her apparent relief. "Then what troubles you?" "I told you that I am not troubled." Entreri reached down and gathered up his pants and began pulling them over his feet. He stopped when he felt Callaghe's hand on his shoulder. He looked up at her, staring down at him, a look of concern on her face. "Your words do not match your expression," she said. "Tell me, can you not trust me? What is it that so upsets the humors of Artemis Entreri? What is it about you? What happened to you to ignite this inner fire?" "You speak in foolish riddles of your own imagination." He bent down again to pull his pants on, but Callaghe gripped him more tightly, forcing him to look back at her. "What is it?" she pressed. "How is a warrior of such perfection as Artemis Entreri created? What history did this to you?" Entreri looked away from her, looked down at his own feet, but he didn't really see them. In his mind's eye, Artemis Entreri was a boy again, barely more than a child, in the dusty streets of a desert port city that was full of the smell of brine or filled with stinging sand, depending on which way the wind was blowing. The wagons creaked, even though they were not moving, as the sandy breeze sizzled against their wooden sides. A couple of the horses nickered uncomfortably, and one even reared up as far as its heavy, tight harness would allow. The driver, a thin and sinewy man of harsh, angular features, who reminded the boy of his father, wasted no time in putting the whip savagely to the frightened creature. Yes, just like his father. The fat spice dealer, seated on one wagon, stared at him for a long time. Those heavy-lidded eyes seemed to invite him to slumber, as mesmerizing as a swaying serpent. There was something there, he knew, some magic behind that gaze, some method of control that had allowed the pathetic, slovenly beast to rise to prominence among the troop gathered for their seasonal caravan out of Memnon. The others all deferred to that one, he could see, though he was just a boy and knew little about the world or about the hierarchy of the merchant class. But that one was the boss, to be sure, and the boy flushed, flattered that the leader of so many would spend time with him and his mother. That prideful flush became an open-jawed and wide-eyed stare of disbelief as the fat man handed over coins. Gold coins! Gold coins! The boy had heard of them, had heard of golden coins, but had never seen any. He had seen silver once, handed by some stranger to his father, bell-rigger, before the stranger went behind the curtain with his mother. But never gold. His mother was holding gold.